Welcome boys and girls, Christine here with a discussion about the ogres in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. They've gone from being one of the worst races to play and one of the weakest races in the game from its launch to being one of the strongest races after the release of Omens of Destruction. However, even though ogres are certainly very strong and do have a good amount of variety in their roster, good legendary lords with unique mechanics, all of them, they do still have certain issues with regards to how they play out. And that is a pretty rare thing to consider, because usually speaking, races have problems with their economy or unit variety or legendary lords. Ogres have everything you could imagine. They have varied the legendary lords with Scrag's meat, for instance, Greases' gold, and Man-Eater's contracts. They do have a good economy. They do have good heroes. They do have good units. So everything should be good, right? Like, certainly, massing ogre bulls and ogre bulls with dual weapons isn't the most interesting thing to do early on in a campaign, but you do get a lot of different heroes, different magic abilities. So ogres should be a really, really powerful race, especially when you consider the big names and how you gain them. Just complete these objectives, you don't even need to track them. Bretonnian vows wish they were like this. Suffice to say though, ogres do have genuine variety. They have artillery, they have infantry, they have monstrous infantry, they have cav, really good and scary cav at the same time. So what's the problem with ogres? Well, the issue is the specifics of how they play out during the course of a campaign. You can do a lot as ogres in a very quick time. That's not the problem. It's more so an issue of how you do things quickly during the course of a campaign. Because, yes, as I stated, just running around with ogre bulls with dual weapons is not the most fun situation. I mean, you will just run over anyone that tries to stop you early on. So I guess that is a benefit. But suffice to say, the power is there. The problems are down to the specifics of micromanagement. Like, it's weird to think about it. Like, they've got a good variety of climate. They've got, as I said, good lords. But let's start with just the camps to think about them. So camps work purely based on meat. So in order to upgrade things in a camp, it takes multiple turns. They're no longer using a camp surplus point, which thankfully that's gone, because it doesn't work for horde armies in general, by the way. It's more of a limiting factor. So you no longer have to do that. You do have limited camps, but you can basically use one or two camps to essentially recruit everything you need. And it's kind of better to just focus on a couple of camps. But even with just one camp, managing it is a bit of a tedious affair. Now, I'm sure Creative Assembly thought in their minds that what we would do as players, we would occasionally go to an army that has a lot of meat and then just transfer that meat to a camp. That is probably their thought process. That is not, however, what we do. Because we do want to obviously keep building stuff in these camps. We want to get to tier 5 as quickly as possible. That will highlight another issue. So what instead we do is we recruit lords every turn from every location we can. So in this case, I'm recruiting from both a settlement and from the camp. And then, since newly recruited lords always have 50 meat, you just go there, you transfer that meat to your camps, and voila. And the bigger your territory, the more you can do this. Obviously, at one point in a campaign, it stops being relevant because, one, you will certainly gain enough meat to not care about this through regular battles. And obviously your camps will eventually level up, though you could always just disband the camp, build another one. You get the idea. But it is still a problem in the specifics of microing that stuff. It is the best thing you can do as ogres. But this is actually a bigger problem than it might seem, because you realize something as a player with respect to ogres. Well, you don't really care as much about territory as other people. Sure, there's hero capacity, but what you really, really want to do is get those camps to as high of a level as you possibly can. So what instead of doing, like, you shouldn't conquer territory as I did here. Instead, you should just be at war with as many people as possible. All of those people constantly attacking you, and just get stack upon stack upon stack of enemies coming for you that you easily defeat because you're ogres. And you take the meat, you build your camps, and then eventually just get peace agreements with everyone because you have a good amount of power in terms of diplomacy due to the neutrality. I'm not quite sure that's the best playstyle to envision for any specific race in the game, where you're constantly doing busy work, as opposed to genuinely interesting gameplay during the course of a campaign. And it is busy work. And that's not just, that is part of it, but it's not all there is to it. Then we could consider the fact that the really fun and interesting units of ogres do take multiple turns to recruit, which, yes, that is absolutely an annoyance that we do get to deal with. We can get various recruitment benefits when we're considering a tyrant, for instance. Yes, there are genuinely good recruitment benefits that we can get, but that recruitment duration that we have for units, especially early on in a campaign, certainly does ruin the pacing of campaign in some ways. It's never fun to put the player in a position where you know you can steamroll over everyone. You can steamroll with your basic unit roster of ogre bulls. Hell, you could probably do it with Noblars if you really wanted to, though that's the hard choice. But really, you can do it with regular ogre bulls. Though at least we've graduated from using only ogre bulls in a campaign as it was before to actually using ogre bulls with dual weapons. Progress, I suppose. But all the same, it is annoying to give the player the ability of steamrolling everyone, but what you really should be doing as a player is just managing meat. It's less about fighting as ogres and more being like, I don't know, the logistics at your local KFC. I'm sure ogres would actually love that job. Well, minus the logistics part, but all saying, it does drag them down. And then you consider bounties as well. Like, these things give you some very significant benefits, but a lot of these bounties are just gonna end up being useless because you don't want to do them. So instead, here's what you do. Every single turn that you begin, you're likely going to want to open your bounties menu and just abort the missions until you get ones that you actually want. For instance, in this specific campaign, I actually got two missions, in fact, from Belegar to take Yolosapien. That's also the ridiculous part, that a faction can also give you two bounties for the same objective, same location. It is ridiculous. But Belegar gave me one mission for Yolosapien, another mission for Yolosapien a couple of turns later. I also feel it's a shame that I couldn't give Caracade Peaks to Belegar. Maybe Man-Eater's contracts should be a bit more standard, minus the teleportation for the entire race. The bounty system doesn't really work out, as I see it. It's just busy work, it's annoying, it's tedious. It's never really worked out, either. But that's the ogres in a nutshell. A lot of busy work with not as much of a payoff. Now, you can have hyper-aggressive races that do work well. That's the fun part about Khorne, right? Sure, Khorne ends up in the situation where you just dominate so easily without a problem, now you don't care anymore. Ogres dominate, and then you do have to play logistics at KFC again, literally, with the meat, to build the camps to unlock the really fun stuff. I mean, I guess it is appropriate that the one system that CA did implement for ogres in Warhammer 3 Realms of Chaos is something that is still dragging them down, and that's the damn camp system. I think the idea of horde armies is something that Creative Assembly has always tried to do in one fashion or another, and I think it's never worked out. I guess the camps are the best iteration of that system, but the way you do manage resources is not great. I mean, hilariously enough, I do think that if you actually had camps attached to legendary lords, it would actually be far less tedious, because yeah, you just fight with your armies attached to camps, as opposed to the situation, oh, I'm gonna dump a camp, and every couple of turns I can just pack the camp and then redeploy it, and you know, it's gonna take a while to actually redeploy said camp. And yeah, that is not especially great to, like, even though it is only 3 turns, but yeah, I mean, I guess it does keep them moving, but I just find it a bit silly as a system with how it handles. That's kind of, I guess, the big point about ogres. They are ridiculously strong, but they're also silly to really play. I mean, it's one of those races where you can win in a couple of turns the campaign, but going any further is just like busy work. Costine signing out.